Hello, and welcome to the Tainted Lands, Shadows of the City, Episode 6. We've just taken a couple of weeks off, so we're going to kind of jump back into things tonight. I am RJ Cresswell, and I am the Dungeon Master for this game. Before we go any further, let's take a moment and just kind of meet everyone else. So please tell us who you are and who you are playing tonight. And Eric, tonight, let's start with you.
Oh, hi. I'm Eric. I'm playing Sir Cadron Lorinar, the who we have all seemed to dub middle-aged Karen. Uh, so maybe we'll get to see more of the I want to see your manager side come out tonight. Maybe not. We'll see. Half-Drow Paladin, if I forgot to mention.
All right. Cool. Kristen.
Hello, I'm Kristen. I will be playing Toby, a rock gnome tinkering warlock.
All right. Jess.
Hi, I'm Jess. I play Wynn, the high elf druid barbarian. And yeah, we should probably check on my parents, since I've just contracted and been cured of the plague.
Okay. Shondell.
I'm Shondell. I have no voice this week, but Judy is going to try to make up for that. She's a half wood elf fighter, and she's usually just along for the ride.
All right. Lewis.
Hi, I'm Lewis. I played the friendly neighbourhood drag queen Wallace, who's a Hill Dwarf trickery cleric.
All right. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we've taken a couple of weeks off, and I've been pretty busy, so I haven't had a chance to script out a narrative recap or anything like that. So I'm going to try to kind of set the stage and sort of remind us of where we were. Now, not last time we played, if I remember correctly, you started off after having just seen a person approaching you on horse in the dark streets of Black Sands. You had just kind of seen Wynn's parents off from quite a nice dinner at the Silver Pony, which is the inn and tavern where you had been staying at. And kind of as they disappeared into the darkness one way, from the other direction you heard kind of like the clop of hooves against cobble, and you looked and you saw this person approaching in a cloak. And the horse was just kind of, going at a pretty slow pace, and as it passed you, the cloaked figure on horseback kind of fell off, but its foot was caught in the stirrup, and the horse kind of like dragged the figure a ways before the foot dislodged, and the figure lay on the ground. Now, almost immediately, Wallace took an interest in this figure, and he approached it and kind of knelt down beside it, and everyone else kind of like stood around as Wallace began sort of like looking at its face. He pulled back the hood of its cloak, and he noticed that, the figure, he thought it was a male but couldn't tell for sure. He thought it was a human, couldn't quite tell for sure. Might have been a half-elf. And the reason why he couldn't tell for sure is because the skin was just pallid and all pocked with kind of like these cysts from something, and he began kind of like poking, and one of these boils that he poked just kind of like burst open and just kind of like ran down his cheek, not Wallace's cheek, but the individual's cheek, and just kind of like dripped onto the cobble below it. And from the same direction that the horse had come from, you kind of heard two guards shouting towards you to halt there. And kind of about the time that you heard that, Wallace looked at them, but then turned back to the figure on the ground, and that figure opened its eyes, grabbed Wallace's arm, and bit into his wrist. From there, combat ensued, because this figure got up to his feet and began just pounding Wallace in the face, punch after punch. just kind of like milky, dead white eyes, and I believe it was Sir Kay who, was just kind of thinking, and he opened himself up to the divine and found out almost immediately with his divine sense that this figure was undead, So he knew you weren't just fighting someone who was ill and possibly a little unbalanced because of this sickness. He very much knew this was a creature of undeath now, regardless of what it had been in life. So you fought it as the guards began running, from quite a distance toward you. And ultimately you overcame it. It fell. The guards approached. Wynn looked at the body, studied it for a bit, and realized that this was someone who had fallen victim to something she knows as zombie rot. That's kind of like a colloquial name for it, but so named because people who fall victim to this rise in undeath. And if they don't get cured, they will inevitably die if their body can't fight off the disease. And should something else kill them while they're infected with this, they still rise nonetheless. So, when discovered this, you kind of had some conversation with the guards and told them about this figure that was bearing some kind of plague, and they kept their distance from you. And then they began alerting the city. They were calling out, "Plague, plague, ring the bells." And you heard shouts of plague in the distance, and not long after that, bells began to ring. And you kind of had a bit of a moment where you just had to wait because the guards, would not let you leave. And eventually, a cleric arrived, a cleric that you had previously met, Harwin, the Bloodletter, and he came and confirmed what Wynn had thought, and he also noticed that Wallace had been infected and Wynn had been infected. Wallace's hand had, began to fester and ooze pus, and Wynn had this terrible, because she had been struck and scratched in the cheek, or right below her lip by this creature, and she had begun to have a festering kind of wound that was irritating her face. But essentially, Harwin began with his divine magics and said some prayers and cured the two of you of this. And from there, he assured the guards, he's, doesn't carry a huge reputation in the city, but he's known, as they sent for him when this occurred. And he convinced them that you were cured and you were not at danger of falling to this sickness, and they allowed you to leave. And from there, you returned to the Silver Pony, where people inside were just kind of looking on in kind of like shock as they had heard the calls from plague outside. And you confirmed to them that it was true, and there began a murmur in there. And Sir Kay attempted to kind of like quell that by buying a round of drinks for everyone, and we will have to get to that eventually soon. I need to tell you the gold on that and the cost of the dinner and everything.
Well, I'm sure that's going to hurt.
Because that was a pretty penny, being at the establishment that you were at, in the part of town that you're in the part of the city that you're in. But nevertheless, Sir Kay tried to quell that bit of uneasiness, and it was successful with many, but there were some still in there. Obviously distraught over the fact that there's apparently a plague throughout the city. At the very worst, this could mean their lives. Could also mean their businesses, as people will obviously be inconvenienced with not having shipments come in on the docks, with not being able to send things out. So this could be disastrous for the economy. And then, like I said, at the very least, it's just an inconvenience, So, from there, you all retired to your rooms at the Silver Pony, where you will get a full night's rest. As we discussed, I can't remember at the end of the stream or on the post afterwards, your characters are all now 6th level, so hopefully you did level up. Because when you wake, you're now 6th level characters. So, you wake in the morning, And unlike previous times when you've woken at the Silver Pony over the last few days, you don't hear very much activity in the streets outside of your windows. It's dead quiet. You don't hear the murmur that you normally hear coming from the downstairs tavern. Usually people are down there having breakfast, carrying on conversation before they begin their days. But now, it's just dead quiet, seemingly throughout the city, dead quiet, seemingly throughout the tavern. What do you wish to do?
I believe when we left off, we were kind of speaking about the general plans for the day, weren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna talk to Kay, and I'm gonna say the dog. It's the horse, isn't it?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Can I insight check him?
You can? Go ahead.
Okay then.
So that'll be an insight crossed versus a deception.
Right, well, that's a 25 on my insight check.
I got a 24.
It was
I'm
so
plus
close.
6 on insight.
Yeah.
So why on deception?
So you're trying to get a read on Sir Kay, and determine, because you got a pretty good idea. He had been trying to conjure or recall kind of like his horse as a dog. He'd been trying to convince you of that, as you've just kind of made it very clear to the party as of late that you really want some kind of kind of like animal companion for the group. And Sir Kay's been trying to convince you, I'll get a dog. If it dies, I can bring it back, no big deal. And he tells you he doesn't know what he's talking about, but you just had too many conversations as of late. And it was way too convenient that Sir Kay just happened to be sitting there with this kind of white German Shepherd style dog. He's pretty convincing to you, but you still got a gut feeling that it's probably the horse.
Listen, I appreciate it. I really do. When we were younger, like, I didn't even have a fish or anything, so the fact that you would even, like, dog for me, that says a lot, bro, and I appreciate that. But, like, have you never thought about, I don't know, if you can resummon it, can you not, I don't know, what about, like, a giant bat or something? Or, something that can fly? Like that is something that, like, I mean, the horse, yeah, I mean, you kind of, I don't know, it was kind of cool. A dog, that's cool. If I ever want to, like, go a walk, I'm sure I can ask you to turn it into a fluffy white German Shepherd, but it's something, especially given that, we've stolen from people that are potentially really powerful, and if they come knocking, I'd feel a lot safer, if we had, like, a dire wolf or a giant bat or something at our side. And I know that Wynn has some magics, but that would...
You just sort of start seeing the wheels turning in Kay's head, and you just be like, I can at least try. I have no idea how that's going to go. And I have no idea where we'd put it if it became a giant bat.
That's a cute, man. I don't know if it can sleep in my room if it wants.
I'm just gonna put it out there. A giant bat's a large creature, bro.
If you stand a bat, I want a bat.
You know what? Can we buy a bunch of bats then if these aren't that keen? Some people are more cat people than dog people, but you don't seem like bat people.
No, tomorrow I'll turn it into a bat. I can't do it today. We already burned one high level spell.
If I recall, wasn't the dog, like, resting its head on Junie's lap when we ended?
It took a liking to
Okay.
Ginny, didn't it?
So pretty much throughout this whole bat conversation, Judy's just been like scratching the dog and like feeding it scraps and like loving it. As she hears like you're gonna turn into a bat, she just gives this nasty look like
It'll just look like a winged dog.
no.
Could you, technically speaking, seeing as you can kind of decide what it is, make it a giant bat with a German Shepherd?
See, what I was thinking, you might want to do a giant fruit bat because those have like really
Yeah,
kind
because
of
they
like.
have.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, because those are the cute ones.
Oh, can we call it pineapples if it's a fruit bat?
You
Or
can't
pineapples.
want a dog this whole time and then change it to a fruit bat. I want a fruit bat.
It'll be a communal pet. The whole party can take care of it. I have made it canon that this thing likes everyone but Kay. It just tolerates Kay.
Right.
Judy's okay. Judy's okay with a fruit bat. I mean, she'll miss the dog, but she's okay with a fruit bat.
I'll get a dog, don't you worry, that's happening. I'll steal one or something. But, yeah, now that we've got the really important stuff out of the yeah, what we're doing about this plague that's kind of like taking over the town. Is there not a
Talk
guard
2
that we
hours
have to
about a
talk
fruit
to?
bat.
Well, in terms of order, although I did not write this down first, the first thing on the list is checking on Wynn's parents.
Oh, yeah, that is another thing.
That's quite important, considering there could be problems elsewhere in the city. We also probably need to check in on those, and hopefully we can find a shop that's open today. I have a funny feeling some places will have closed their doors.
RJ, you say that Black Sands is like one of the biggest cities like in the Tainted Lands.
Yes, for sure.
So like, what would you say like the population is of Black? Can I make a check to determine that?
I mean, you can make a check to determine it. You're gonna have to let me look up real quick because I don't know exactly what the population is. Give me just a second.
BM flips through notes furiously.
Because my thinking is, if this is like like the capital or whatever, not the capital, but one of the bigger cities, the chances of the entire city knowing, that a plague is broken out. I mean, I know guards are shouting it, but if it's like huge, and I'm talking like King's Landing huge, then maybe not everyone has. We might have time considering it was just last night.
Okay, give me just a second because I'm gonna try to look this up to have the information for you.
Part of me feels like not everybody's going to be closed, but part of me also feels like some of the more popular places might be to try and cut down on like large congregations of people. So if we're going somewhere, we might have to find like a back alley pawn shop for magic stuff. Someplace that's kind of out of the way,
When also is Middlefish outside of Black Sands, or is that like an area of Black Sands?
It's an area of...
city, but it's a neighborhood.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, let's see. Not that. Let me look to see what would be the best thing for you to roll on that. So you aren't super familiar with Black Sands, but let's call it a history check, maybe.
Okay. 17.
17. That's pretty good. You'd estimate somewhere around 13,000 people live here.
Nice.
It's a larger city, a little bigger than Ironhome. Ironhome's kind of like a smaller city, but it's pretty big nonetheless. You know Ironhome pretty well, but you've been impressed by a few things that you've seen in Black Sands that you didn't see back home in Ironhome. So
Donut stalls.
yeah, so it's a little bigger. So anyway, you'd guess probably around 13,000, something like that, just from what you've seen.
So
And hold
one's
on.
parents.
And then to answer your question, so Jess told you already, but yeah, Middlefish. Okay, so kind of like the way Black Sands is, just to paint a better picture for you, is it sits on the mall, which is kind of like the sea or ocean or whatever, right? Okay, so it sits off of that, but otherwise it is a gated city. Now, outside of the gated city is Leechfield, which is the area that you first came into. Okay, but kind of like within the city, there are just kind of like different segmented neighborhoods. They're kind of like, kind of like walls between like the segments and stuff like that. So they just kind of like separate the neighborhoods. And Middlefish is one of the neighborhoods. Black Sands being, or Black Castle District, where you are right now, is kind of like where Castle Black Sands is. As I've previously mentioned, this is kind of the nicest part of the city. A lot of the official buildings, temples, things like that are here. Middlefish being kind of like as the name sort of suggests, kind of like a middle class sort of community. You've got merchants and scholars and things like that who live there. Wynn's parents being scholars, so. But she would tell you, yes, it's a neighborhood of Black Sands, and you've already kind of like seen and passed kind of like the different like gates of the areas and stuff like that. Not all of them, but some of them.
Cool. So when I would imagine that your parents would probably be top priority list, and I think we should check that out first before we go on any leads that we had. What was the name of the captain that you were speaking to yesterday?
I didn't get a name for the one yesterday, but they did tell me if we wanted to talk to someone, we should go to Garrigan. Apparently they're one of the godheads.
Yeah, we should probably make a point of doing that today as well, I would imagine.
Well, might as well start heading out and get into the city a bit. At least we know we won't have to deal with too many people in the streets.
Hopefully I won't get stabbed today in the morning. Anywhere local. Hopefully they got the plague.
All right. So I'm going to assume that you've probably been having this conversation over breakfast. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just a second.
What's the damage on Kay's bank account?
Well, we'll probably
Roll
deal with
4D100s.
that. What's that?
Roll 4D100s to find out how much gold I just spent.
Well, as far as breakfast goes, y'all will all probably drop about a gold piece, so just make sure that you keep track of that. And then I still need to... I know that he's good for it, so we'll assume he's probably already paid it, but or has a line of credit open with Suina at the Silver Pony, one of the two. But I'll have to calculate that because that was a lot he dropped last night, I'm sure. But anyway, each of you...
We'll figure that out off stream.
Yeah, we'll figure it out off stream. So each of you will, drop about a gold on breakfast this morning, and as usual, it's very, pleasant and nice food. You're really the only people in here eating this morning, dining this morning. So you're continuing to stay with us. We welcome that. Thank you.
Yes, we're going to be here a while, it seems.
Yes. Well,
What was your name again, pal? Sorry, I forgot. I had a bit of a mental day yesterday.
He'll put out his hand. I am Suina.
Nice to meet you. I'll shake his hand. I'll put forward the hand that was bitten when I go to shake his hand.
Right. You put it forward, and there's definitely a bite mark there, but it doesn't look, like it did last night. Harwin definitely took care of that. There's, it's kind of healed up, but unless you bathe, there might be kind of like dry blood or something, kind of like caked around it. But otherwise,
Yeah, that probably is.
he, as you do it, he doesn't even seem to notice. He just shakes your hand and Will you be joining us for dinner as usual tonight?
That
course.
is the hope, yes. But if we wind up back late, you can, well, at least assume we've been waylaid by something else.
All right. Well,
We have some business in the city, it seems.
then we will have something prepared nonetheless, and if you come in late, you can eat when you get here. We'll see you served.
Thanks, it's appreciated.
All right. So, you head out. And as I've kind of already intimated to you, the city is dead, you know. Normally there's a fairly bustling market going on close to here. You know, that's where you kind of met the gnome girl and, you know, bought up all her pastries and, you know, lots of other things were going on around there, but there's none of that right now. You don't even see guards patrolling the streets at the moment. Now, Wallace, your passive perception once more is
18.
What is it's 18. When? What's yours now?
16, I think.
If you're talking, Jess, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I just read. I believe it's 16. I'm just checking. Yes, 16.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get everybody's because you all leveled. Kristen, what's Toby's passive perception?
So 11.
Shondell, what's Junie's passive perception?
You beat it, Shando.
Sorry. 16.
And then what's Sir Kay's passive perception, Eric?
Tied with Toby at 11.
Okay. Okay, as you all kind of like walk out into the streets, every single one of you immediately notice this as you're kind of like looking around. You're kind of glancing around through to the buildings and then to the empty cobbles where no one is, to kind of like the closed down market area. And you see up in the sky, it's a relatively clear spring day, except for a quite kind of odd collection of clouds. And you all focus on it, and as you see the clouds, you noticed that they have formed words in common. And as you read the words, it says, "Come to Carabel's Curiosities and save with the plague sale."
Someone has got a pretty easily the right idea.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, that's advertising for you. That's
the
Do you think we should go?
use of skywrite in a crisis I have ever heard.
Love it.
Should we go?
We gotta check on our parents. Gotta.
I mean, not like right now, but like later on.
There's a plague in the city.
Is it even worth asking? Because anything weird like that, I can't think of a better word right now. You know, we're gonna check out, like, that's the unwritten rule of this party.
I mean,
The
there's
question
a plague, but
is,
he's
do
still
we
on the
split
queue.
party?
I'm up for it. Like,
We do not split the party.
Yeah,
Never.
leave it up to Wen. What do you think?
Well, let's check on my parents first and see how things go from there.
so no.
Check on Wynn's parents and then go shopping. Yes, absolutely.
Priorities, eh?
All right.
Yep.
So, you're going to stick with your particular plan, which is to make it to Middlefish to find Wynn's parents. So, you will travel throughout these dead streets, and then eventually you will come to, and I'm kind of speeding things along for the sake of not just describing a whole lot of travel, but you walk for, a bit, past streets, through streets, past alleys, things like that. And eventually you will come to the gates of Middlefish. It happens to be connected to the Castle District, Black Castle. What I'm trying to say is you didn't have to travel through other neighborhoods to get there. It is actually connected. So when you get there, it's kind of like an arched gateway, and there are a couple of guards standing there, but the gateway is open. All right, and as you approach, they don't say anything. They just look at you and nod.
It's happening, and I walk past them.
Okay, all right. So you walk on past them and begin walking through Middlefish. Now, there is a noticeable difference in this particular district. Not that it becomes crummy or anything like that, because not at all. It's actually a pretty nice neighborhood, but kind of like the larger stone buildings just kind of like give way to kind of like some smaller size, sort of like Tudor style, buildings and stuff like that. Still nice. In fact, much nicer than a couple of you are accustomed to. But much more smaller scale and wealth and things like that. Streets are still paved with cobble here. Wynn leads you to her parents' house, and it takes another matter of maybe 20-30 minutes or so. Wynn, Jess, I want you to describe for me what you think your parents' house looks like.
Okay.
And I know I'm putting you on the spot. You weren't expecting that, so take a moment if you need to.
Okay. Well, main entrance hall is probably pretty bare. Used but not worn out carpet leading from the front door towards a door on the left and a door straight ahead. The doorway to the left will lead into what would be a sitting room, but is pretty much actually a study reading room. Side tables are stacked with books, table filled with parchments, a few odd little contraptions here and there. The door at the other end of the hall would lead to the dining room. And beyond that, a doorway to the kitchen.
And let's stop you at the kitchen. So you approach Wynn's parents' house in the neighborhood of Middlefish, and as you come up to it, again, like I said, it's one of those Tudor style houses, so it's kind of like painted white, and kind of has like the sort of brownish orange kind of like boards on it. And as you get closer, it's a reasonably sized house, and it looks fairly nice. As you get closer to it, though, you realize the painting or the paint job on it is pretty fresh, but you can tell the wood underneath is somewhat worn. And as you go inside, you step onto sort of this kind of like worn kind of like carpet that Jess was describing for you, and she leads you on through the house. You notice kind of like in one of the doors to the left or whatever, this particular study, and she leads you on into the kitchen. And I'll point out to everyone, Wynn didn't actually knock on the door or anything like that. She just kind of walked in, I mean, it is quite literally her house, still. It's kind of like the way she sees it, and she just walks in and the door's open. And once she leads you through it, and she's described those other things to you, you will find yourselves in the kitchen. And Wynn's mother, Gallowin, is kind of like standing at sort of kind of like this counter space, and she's taking a knife and cutting apples. And when you walk into the kitchen, she starts and the knife slips, and she kind of cuts the tip of her finger, as you come in. And she's like, "Laughlin, you You scared me so. I thought I was alone.
I'm sorry. We just thought we should come check on you and Dad.
All right, of course. I should have been expecting you. Yes, your friends are welcome. And then she just kind of like, kind of looks down at her hand, her finger, and you notice that, she's kind of like bleeding on to the counter, and she, takes a rag that's nearby, kind of like wraps her finger up and kind of like applies some pressure to it. And she looks at you all, and I was just making a snack for myself. Are any of you hungry? It's early. Have you had breakfast, Laughlin?
Yes, we have. But as I notice her wrapping the rag around a bleeding finger, I'm gonna cast Healing Word.
Okay. So, what does Healing Word heal?
It's 1d4 plus my spellcast ability modifier.
Don't even worry about rolling it. Okay, so
Okay.
you kind of like begin saying these words and, casting this spell. And your mother takes note of it, and, you see kind of like at the corner of her mouth, it kind of turns up into a bit of a smile, and she just says, Thank you, Laughlin. That's much better.
You're welcome.
She removes the rag, and you notice it's no longer actively bleeding her finger, and she begins kind of like wiping the blood from the counter. So you've all eaten?
What is Laughlin's second name?
I kind of haven't come up with one.
So Jess doesn't have that ready for you, but I'm sure that,
Okay, that's fine. I was going to call her Mama Laughlin, but then I was like, that's a bit rude. I should probably call her like Mrs. whatever her second name is, but I'll just call her Mam. I'll be like, this is a lovely house that you have.
Well, thank you. You all are quite welcome. Please have a seat. And thank you for coming to check on us. We do appreciate it. Your father is not in right now. He's gone about the neighborhood to check on some of the others. Yes, you know that there is a plague. You've heard this, right?
Yes.
I think we were the ones that discovered it.
Well, please tell me
Pretty
more.
sure, man.
We didn't get much information here at all, whatsoever. We just heard the bells and the shouts of plagues, and we know that the city is closed. What did you discover? What happened?
Out of character, I think it's such a bad idea to start spreading this information, but in character, it's totally cool. Go for it.
Don't tell
Stop you
anyone
from
that.
telling your parents stuff. Like, come on.
Yeah, Toby's not gonna say anything. He'll probably like try to rummage through your kitchen while you're telling your mom about it.
Peanut butter, Toby.
While Toby's doing this, Judy's gonna try to be like, Toby, stop, Toby. Kind of like a dog rifling through the trash almost. Like, stop it.
He has a jar, like he can't stop unless you physically take it away from him.
Yeah.
It's like,
Do I have to? Did I summon a guard dog to guard other people from us? Is that what this is happening?
he's curious
Is the
about
dog in as
what's
well?
in this house.
Yeah. So just
Is
so
the
you
dog-
know, Toby, opens a cabinet, and he, as he opens it up, he sees like several jars in there, and the particular jar that he's grabs, he grabs it, begins to kind of like loosen the lid on it, and Junie immediately, starts following him behind, Toby. Toby, stop! But Toby just continues to undo it, and as you kind of pop it off.
I just envisioned Toby like giving me a side eye and be like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like really slow. Don't do it. Don't.
Yeah. So Toby pops it off and he looks inside and he sees what looks like kind of like very rich, kind of like creamy butter, almost with something like crystallized on top of it, And,
Jackpot.
Junie is just like, don't do it, Toby, don't do it. And then Toby just slowly dips his finger down, looks at, and it's some kind of honey butter, it's rich and sweet and creamy. And as he looks in the cabinet, there's kind of like a, there's this taste of this kind of like sweet, creamy richness, but more so as he's kind of like eating that, he gets kind of like hit with the smell of like this fresh bread. And as he looks, there's just kind of like a big loaf of bread that's in there that's been baked and kind of like put in the cabinet, so.
Slowly just starts making like give me this language of
I can't make a more like exasperated sound than that.
As I'm dipping it into
I'm just
the
gonna pretend like his passive perception is way too low to notice that.
Yeah. And you pretend, and as Gallowin is speaking with her daughter Laughlin, everyone is just kind of like watching Toby as he's taking like this huge loaf of bread and not even like tearing off a chunk, but just taking like the big
It's
loaf and just
probably
like
the size of his head.
dipping it into the butter as he can and eating it that way. So yes, child, please tell me what's going on. As I said, we've heard nothing other than the city is closed due to plague.
Yeah. After you left, body fell off a horse just outside the inn, covered in boils.
Let the bodies hit the floor.
And your mother's
Get out.
face immediately, she kind of like immediately sort of like, you can see this look of revulsion. Boils,
Yeah.
right? Well, I know you've made your studies. What do you think it was?
Sorry, I think you cut out.
Oh, so basically she, essentially, in a roundabout kind of way, she says, I know you left to go, pursue, healing and medicine and things like that. So what do you think it was? What caused it?
It looked like zombie rot.
All right. And whereas moments before she kind of like had this look of revulsion or disgust or whatever, you see kind of like her face, pulls, a look of fear, as she's familiar with that. And then she just kind of like puts the knife down that she was still holding in one hand and, not again. And that's all she says. And kind of like looks
Not again.
down. This wouldn't be the first time, child. Zombie rot has struck Black Sands before. How old is Laughlin?
She is... What did I say for that? Just shy of 100.
Okay, all right then. In that case, oh, and I forgot to. Wynn is definitely a full elf, right? She's not a half elf.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So anyway, she's just shy of 100. This was long before your time, child. I was but a little girl. Your grandparents probably remember it much more than I do. But yes, many died. The city was closed. We nearly starved. It was Horrible times. They were horrible times.
You wouldn't by chance know what caused it / stopped it the last time, would you?
There were those who still worshipped the old ways. And they would feed the dead to the maw. And there was a somewhat small outbreak, and the bodies were all sent to sea. Then they were washed back ashore. And there was a second round of the outbreak, and it grew from there. I know not how it ended. I'm only left with vague memories of hunger and thirst and the horrible things I saw in the streets as many died. I remember having to flee our homes as we came under siege from these things that were once our neighbors. All vestiges of life stripped from them as they tried to attack.
And this is the point where Kay gets paranoid. I think at this point Kay would just nod and then basically like telepathically tell the dog, keep an eye on everyone here. And he's gonna go and just like basically just sit outside on the front porch and just keep an eye, because like I said, paranoia.
Sure. Well, as you're sitting outside, Middlefish is no different in Black Castle. Streets are dead. You're not really seeing anything. You know, you're paranoid. You know, you saw that thing last night. You heard what she just said. You know what this could possibly mean. It's obviously very early on, and you're not sure if that was the only case, and if you caught it before anything else could happen, before it could spread, contaminate others. But as of right now, things are quiet. Again, eerie, almost, as you would expect. City this size, things to be going on. Yet you hear almost nothing. It's quiet enough that even though you're not quite on the mall right now, you can hear the gulls, you know, as they fly. You hear their calls over the city. So, you talk a little bit with your mother about it. Toby, for what it's worth, or Kristen, for what it's worth, Toby finds the bread and butter absolutely delicious. You know, not sure how much he eats of it, but it's good. Bread's still warm. All right. Anything else?
Not to be rude, is it Gallowan? Sorry, is it Gallowan as Loffin's?
Yeah, Gallowan, yeah.
Your mother, is she still with us? Is there a care home in Black Sands we can maybe visit? Talk to her if she was alive during this time. You see, we are obviously as worried as you are about the plague, especially if you experience this from a younger age, but you know, we're kind of like heroes and stuff, so like we want to try and do what we can to like stop. So
Well, that is quite admirable, young man. But yes, my parents,
thank you.
they're still alive, but after the plague, they moved from Black Sands. They live in Last Hope now.
Understandable.
Sounds promising.
See with the spell sending, do I need to know the person that's
Probably, but I don't know. I'm not sure what the
Can I look
text,
that
how
up?
the text reads. Yeah, look it up.
because I have sending as a 3rd level spell.
Okay.
Hold on, I got it right here.
I think you
Might mail you a grand.
do, but I think they can like describe them.
So, a creature you are familiar with, 25 words. Send the message across any distance, but if the target's on a different plane than you, there's a 5% chance the message doesn't arrive. So, if you
So
get a decent enough description, maybe?
I would. That's one of those things I would kind of rule a familiarity of actually kind of like knowing, you know.
knowing them, that's what I
Yeah.
was thinking.
I mean, like you don't have to be best friends with them. It could be maybe someone that you
You
briefly
met
met in passing or something like that. But you have absolutely no concept of who Gallowin's mother is. So
Do you have? Does your gran have any pals that aren't dead that stay here? No, well, not your gran, your mum. Sorry.
it is possible. I have not kept in touch with any of my parents' friends. But there are many here who are much older than I am. In Middlefish alone, we elves tend to live quite a while.
Your husband. You mentioned he was going to see the others. Are these people who could have potentially maybe been alive during this time period?
Oh no, not our neighbors. We're some of the only elves on this street, but there are many elves in the district otherwise. If it were me,
Alright, well,
and I were really trying to find out things about what happened, of course you could see one of the libraries. They'd keep records on these things.
I don't
Shit.
think we're allowed to go back to the library here.
I mean, yeah, to be fair, last time I went there I got stabbed. Which was yesterday.
I'd like to. I'm not there.
Yeah. And she'll tell you, after she thinks, for a little bit, she'll, I do know, there's one elf much older than myself, Tinnin.
Tenon?
Yes.
What a lovely name. And whereabouts would we be able to find this Tenon?
Tinnin is one of the priests at the Chapel of Tomes.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. Stay safe. Please. Because if you get zombie rot, yeah.
Right. And you can tell she doesn't really know what to do with that. Again, she kind of like looks back at when, one part you can tell, still a bit of the fear from knowing that this is going to happen. And then two, a bit of, is your friend really saying this, kind of thing. Well, thank you. I will try to stay safe. Laughlin, please tell me you're going to stay here.
You mean in the house and do nothing?
Well, you won't just be doing nothing. You can help your father and I here, and you'll be staying safe.
Danger is Wynn's middle name, even though we don't know what our last name is yet. Danger would be our middle name.
I love it.
In character.
Not good. That was, well, I don't know, Wallace probably would say that.
I was just going to say, Wallace probably at this point knows what Wynn's middle name is, just hasn't decided on that. But I'm sure that she told you, when you asked, So you might still say that Danger is her middle name, nonetheless. But you probably know what her last name is, or her surname is. So
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Well, Jess, is there anything else Wynn would say to her mother, or how would she respond about her pleas for you to stay here, to remain safe?
If nothing else, I wanted to study herbology. an herbalism to help people, to heal them. So, at the very least, I'm going to be trying to do that.
And as you say this, she's kind of taken your hand and is just sort of looking at you imploringly. Why don't you why don't you roll a persuasion check for me?
I'm gonna get grounded at 100 years old. That's mental.
That's exactly what's about to happen.
Natural 20.
Yes.
For a total of 22.
Get your mop out.
All right.
Or not.
And as you do that, you can see your mom kind of breaks and relents a bit, and she looks at you and says, "You always did have a kind heart, Laughlin. And I can't quench that. So do what you have to do. But please,
I'll stay safe.
stay safe, and you all take care of my child."
Of course. Not that we need to. She's hard, man. She's hard, miss. Mrs. Whatever Laughlin's second name is.
All right.
Mrs. Insert last name.
Mrs. Danger. That should be Laughlin's second name.
And as she turns around and sees, Toby still working on the bread, and Junie over there, probably still encouraging Toby to stop or whatever, she just looks and says, "Please do take that and enjoy."
He says thank you with like some bread coming out of his mouth. Like,
All right.
Are we sure Toby's an old gnome?
oh yeah, he's super old. He's like that type of old that just doesn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's so old that he just doesn't care anymore.
What if he's kind of like the Benjamin Button of gnomes, and he's kind of like really young? But
Oh god, no, no.
No.
Judy's just like got her head down. She's shaking it. Just like,
all right.
He offers you some butter.
Just the butter, no bread.
Just the butter.
I have a feeling that butter is from all around your face. Just like,
All right.
Got in his beard a little bit.
So I'm going to assume that probably you all leave. If there was nothing else you wanted to do, or you checked, that Wynn's father is not here, but apparently he's okay and he's gone to check on neighbors and what have you, and Wynn's mother is apparently okay as well. So, you've done that. What do you wish to do from here?
I'm gonna ask when I can cast a spell. I know that your dad wasn't here. I can cast a spell to check on him, and he can like speak back to me, which would maybe save us hunting about for him if that's something you'd want me to do.
You finish that? Yeah. If you could.
All right. I'm gonna send a message to Wynn's dad, being like, "Hey, it's Wallace. Hey, it's Wallace, the guy from last night. How's you?
The guy from last night suddenly panics.
When was asking for you, you can reply to this message. Is that 25? That might be 26.
That's 20.
That's 20.
Yeah.
All good then.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so I think you came under. So essentially what you said is, "Hey, it's Wallace." You're just trying to check on him to see how he's doing, asking for Wynn or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hey,
all right.
Wallace,
And then
the guy from last night. I had a lot of fun. Can you call me back?
so
Been thinking about
they-
you a bit since last.
they can respond with 25 words as well.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Hello, Wallace. My head is killing me, and there's a plague but otherwise okay. And I lost count of my words, but if there were enough, till when I love her, something like that.
Yeah, you're good.
I'm hungover and there's a plague. Excellent.
Did he send? I would have probably sent an X. Did he send an X back?
Did he send an X? What now?
Yeah, like an X, like a wee kiss at the end of my.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, I will relay that information to Win and be. Your dad's fine. He's just a little bit rough from last night, but he's good.
Why is it that Wallace only flirts with the people that are entirely unavailable?
Don't know that isn't.
Like, the hag, Wallace's dad, the Lady of Morton. This is a thing.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know how these people are entirely unavailable. It's just never been pursued very much.
Exactly. I'm not going to be a homewrecker, but I can start a hang with your dad. Like, that won't happen.
Okay.
All right, so you do that. You find out that indeed he's okay, and
yeah, I've marked
Thank
that
you,
off
Wallace.
now. It's
That's a
alright.
relief.
Always a pleasure to talk to your dad.
all right. So what do you all wish to do now?
I mean, I kind of want to hit up the plague sale.
Yeah, kinda as well.
It's the Black Sands fire sale.
Yeah. All right then.
And,
So
Carabel's
Is
Curiosity.
it still in the sky? Like, I think it's just.
you can't
Oh,
see
is
it
it
from
like-
here. That was in Black Castle District. So you'd need
I'm
to
just
walk
so
back.
curious as a player. Like, that's a good use of Skywrite, man.
Chop cheese drop.
All right. So
And
in
then
which
get
case,
back up again.
if y'all want to go check out the
Exactly.
Oh no. Oh no.
You'll need to make sure you get reinfected first, So,
Oh.
so
Oh.
all right. So you will just kind of like you're able to kind of make it back through Middlefish. Pass through the gates again. Guards on each side. They just nod. They don't stop you or say anything to you. They let you pass as the gates are open, and you head back into Black Castle, and as you kind of like head back towards the Silver Pony, you will see the writing still in the sky. It's you've been a little while. It looks like the clouds are kind of like growing a little fainter, beginning to kind of dissipate, but you can make out the words still. And you follow it through the streets of Black Castle, and walk upon the cobbles, and it's still as dead as it described it previously. And eventually, you will come to a kind of like stone building. It looks like a cottage, but like way too big for a cottage, But it's kind of like styled like that, There is a kind of like a stone chimney that kind of like goes up one side past the roof, and there's smoke coming from it, and that smoke is just kind of like feeding the clouds that are up in the sky. This again, text that reads, "Come to Carabel's Curiosities and save for the plague sale." And as you kind of like look at the building, again, it's stone. There's kind of like green moss growing on it, wooden steps leading up to kind of like this finely carved wooden door. And there's a sign out front, and it just reads in kind of like golden script on this wooden board, "Carabel's Curiosities." So you're in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
We
Well.
walk in.
I'm definitely going in last. I've been paranoid this whole time.
Now that we've seen it, do you want to go? I'm joking, but I'll just walk in.
Okay. All right. When you walk in, again, much like the outside, the inside looks as though it should be a cottage. There's kind of like, rugs, there's some seating, things like that. You see the fireplace. It's nice, it's cozy, but it's on a much larger scale. And beyond that, you can very much tell that this is not really, someone's cottage living space or whatever, because everywhere is just kind of like cluttered with, shelves and shelves of things, and there are like racks and things like that, and just it's a large area just full of like junk, And as you open the door and enter, there's kind of like one of those little bell chimes like above it that rings as you walk in. And you all go in and see what I'm describing. There's a pleasant scent in here as well. It, I say pleasant, maybe not, depending on your particular taste. It kind of smells like patchouli, just sort of like filling, but kind of like a sweeter sort of patchouli or something like that.
I don't know what that is.
Okay.
You don't want to know.
It's sort of a pungent, kind of earthy, kind of like essential oil, I like it. Some people don't, So
An acquired smell.
It smells a bit like if somebody tried to make perfume out of weed. Just a bit.
So you smell this kind of like strange scent as you go in.
It.
And as you're kind of like walking around, you hear someone's voice, but you don't see them. And hello, yoo-hoo.
Hello.
Welcome to Carabella's Curiosity Shop. How may I help you today?
What do you?
Judy's gonna.
What do you have
Judy,
for sale? What's
Judy,
on sale?
Judy's just gonna chime up and just be like, "We're just browsing. Let you know if we have any questions."
All right, so you say that, and then Toby, kind of as you're looking around, and you're like, "What do you have on sale?" You look and you see kind of like someone like right on your level, but kind of like in a distance toward the back of the shop. Appears to be kind of like a gnomish man, probably much younger than Toby is, okay? And he's got kind of like this apron over his shirt. He's got like these long kind of like striped sleeves, and he's got his hair up in a top knot with a little hair hanging down on the side, and kind of like this curly, mustache. And, as you're asking, what do you have on sale? And he's like, technically everything in here is on sale. You must have seen the sign in the sky. It is a plague sale. Now, I know that is not in a very good taste, but I am a pretty practical person. So,
How much for your apron?
You mean the apron that I am wearing, sir?
Do you have other aprons?
We have quite the collection of aprons. If you would like some things like this, you can go over there, by those mannequins you see. Look around there, and you will find some.
Yeah, speaking his language.
All right. Well, I'm glad I could be of
we
help.
could like dive through all this junk like Scrooge McDuck, he totally would. He's just he's like trying to look through all the junk.
Sure, and I'm sure there are areas in here that are totally appropriate for that. You're kind of like glancing around, you see just kind of like one bin of just like clockwork pieces and springs and things like that, not organized at all whatsoever, but just cluttered in like a box, just kind of like random spare parts for things, So Toby begins, sorting through that. Now, as you're looking around, there are any number of things that could catch your eyes in particular. And let's just, you see kind of like standard sort of like shop things in here. Just about anything that you could buy from a general store. In addition to that, Junie, give me a percentile roll.
I'm totally going to buy a lovely new apron.
You know,
52.
for
52?
every occasion.
Yeah.
All right. So Junie is kind of like looking around. She finds like a section with kind of like a shelf of books. Kind of like historical type tomes. About some some war that happened a few centuries ago. And as she's looking around that area, kind of like at the ends, not quite like as bookends, but kind of like bookending the shelf, or kind of like two toy soldiers. And she kind of like sees those there. One is missing its head, but otherwise intact. Okay, Eric, give me a percentile roll.
95.
95. All right. Kay is just kind of like browsing around as well. And, he's kind of been thinking about, Wallace and this dog thing or whatever. And he kind of like finds an area with kind of like, some things that look like they would lend themselves to, a dog, like a collar and, chain and things like that. And, you see like some cat toys and stuff like that. But kind of like amidst of the cat toys, you find like a little petrified mouse as well. And you're looking at it and you're like, oh, this is some kind of cat toy. But as you like hold it in your hands, it's like actually legitimate, a petrified mouse. All right.
Hazel would like that.
Kristen, give me a percentile roll for Toby.
6.
6. Okay, so as I've kind of previously mentioned, Toby is kind of like looking around at all of these clockwork pieces. And as he's doing that, he sees kind of like sort of near those, there's this kind of like these shards of like glass. And as he's looking at it, he sees that it appears to be kind of like stained glass window that's been broken, but looks like it could be repaired. It's in big enough pieces. It wasn't just like completely shattered. And then kind of like in that area, he finds other glass things, and he sees kind of like this chess piece that's kind of like made out of this like crystal glass as well. Lewis, give me a percentile roll.
Okie dokie. 38.
38. All right. So, Wallace is kind of like looking around at these aprons, and it's kind of like in an area of this shop that just kind of looks like it's for homemaking and stuff like that. And as he's looking there, he sees kind of like some portraits hanging on the wall, and one of them is of kind of like this tiny sketch, and it's framed behind glass even, of a goblin. And he's kind of like looking at it, and it looks sort of like a grandmotherly type goblin who just happens to be wearing an apron as well. Jess.
Oh my, really? Oh, what kind of apron is the goblin wearing? Like, is it what patterns on it?
Okay, so as it's kind of like, what is gingham, that sort of like checkered pattern? Is that what gingham is? I don't know. It seems
I'm
like
gonna
it's
buy. I'm gonna buy an apron that's like the one that the goblin's wearing.
Give me just a second. Yes, that's what gingham is. Gingham is sort of like that, either red and white or blue and white checkered pattern, and that's
nice.
She's got that on. Okay. All right.
Well, this is now like an apron connoisseur. He's gonna just like anybody can just like buy one.
He's looking around for like a gingham apron that looks like the grandmotherly sort of goblin. Okay. All right, and he'll find one. He finds it in yellow. He finds it in blue. He finds it in red.
Oh, can I?
This goes apron shit.
Can I? I don't know. My other apron's got flowers on it. What? They're like red flowers. Let's go with yellow.
Have like a Pretty Woman montage.
Trying on aprons.
Can we do that? Can I be like, guys? I don't know what one to pick. I'm going to go in the back and.
All right.
Come out and I'm gonna be like, like posing like that for like one of them on, and then like, and I'm gonna let them decide what color I get.
All right.
All I can hear is Roy Orbison in my head singing "Pretty Wallace," and I can't unhear that.
All right. Now, you kind of like go and, you, as everyone else is sort of like looking around for things and stuff like that, I'm sure, you go try one on and you run around to everybody, asking how it looks or whatever. And then just kind of as you do that, the consensus that you get from everyone is that the yellow one is most flattering on Wallace. So,
Yeah.
I'll get the yellow one then.
yeah. All right.
It is.
Jess, give me a percentile roll.
100.
100. Okie dokie. All right. So Wynn is kind of in there, and she's sort of like over in an area, probably naturally just sort of like looking at medicinal things like medicine kits and, herbs and stuff like that. And as she's doing that, she kind of like sees this metal urn that's sitting on a shelf next to them, and not inscrawled, but engraved in this metal urn, it says Saint Carathan. Those are the only words on it.
I could totally be a genie.
Does that sound familiar to me?
Make a history check or a religion check, whatever's most favorable to you.
That's a good question. Which is most favorable? It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
An 11. Hello. Can you hear me?
Hey,
Hi.
Yes, they can.
We sure can. All right. So Wynn kind of like thinks about the name, and it sounds familiar to her, but she can't really place any details. She's definitely heard the name Saint Carathan before, but beyond that, doesn't really know who it is. Can't attribute any stories or lore to it in particular. Now, you're all just kind of like looking around at these things, and you just kind of, as you're walking around, you hear, take your time, look around. If I can be of help with anything, please do let me know. You are quite literally my only customers today, so buy what you like. Again, we have a very, very good sale going on right now.
I was wondering, but I've never had so much fun in a shop, but do you have any items of the magical sort? I have been getting myself into a bit of bother recently and would be very interested in a pendant or ring or whatever that could perhaps help me with healing wounds and whatnot.
All right. So you ask him that, and as you say that, his eyes kind of light up, and he looks at you, and he's like, certainly my reputation must precede me, right? We carry some things like this. I mean, it is a curiosity shop, but my interest lies in things with magical properties. Now, we're not overflowing with things like this, but I don't know. I'll have to look around, look in my books and see what we have, what we've sold, and if we might have something like that. So, Wallace, or Lewis, tell me whether or not you would like the bottom fourth, top fourth, next to bottom fourth, next to top fourth.
Decisions. Bottom.
Bottom fourth. Okay. It's either a 1 or a 10, and either one would be in the bottom fourth. So, all right. He will go over, and you notice he's got several kind of like ledger books that he pulls out, from behind his counter. And he sets them up there. He takes out about 4 and begins kind of like looking through them. And he spends several minutes doing this. And as he does, even though he's kind of like a younger kind of gnome, he still pulls out like these spectacles and puts them on. And, you know, as he kind of like looks up at you, he just looks up and he's like, it will take me just a moment. I have to go through several things over here and see if we still have something like that in stock. And when he looks at you, kind of like from the spectacles, however they're made, his eyes just look like much bigger, you know, than they did when he wasn't wearing them. And he spends several minutes kind of like, you know, combing through these books, and he's like, after probably 15 or so minutes, you know, just kind of like licking, turning pages, running his hand up and down these ledgers, he was like, yes, it looks like we do have something like that here. If you just follow me right over here, I will show you what we have.
Minted.
All right. And he will lead you over to an area of the store. And there are just kind of like all kinds of like baubles and necklaces and things like that. And he'll pull out one that is kind of like, you know, it's just like mixed in with all of like these random necklaces and stuff like that. And you can tell that many of these things must just be junk and not special or anything at all whatsoever. But once he looked it up in his ledger, he was just immediately able to go to it in the store. And he pulls this thing out. It's kind of like on this black leather cord. And it's got like some kind of brass or copper, you know, kind of like metal. And that metal is just sort of like twisted around this kind of like reddish bloodstone. And he's like, look, we have this right here, and I like to call this thing the lifesaver. You put it on, and it will keep you alive. It'll help you not die.
That sounds like what I was looking for.
It's very much a magical item.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll help you out with what I think you're looking for.
So, for that in the gingham yellow apron, what is the damage?
Alright, you know, so let me do a little calculation real quick. And you see him kind of like, you know, just sort of like thinking, and he tells you, alright, for this quite lovely necklace right here, and this is only because of the sale, mind you, I could let this go for about the 500 gold pieces. And you pay for that, and I'll tell you what, I will give you that apron. Plus, if you like the blue one, you like the red one, you can have one of each of those as well.
Yeah, that is cool. I will buy that.
Okay.
I have enough. Just enough. I have 59 gold left. So I'm giving him the 200 gold of my amber as well, part of that.
All right, so yeah, if you've got like the amber or whatever, he'll appraise it, or you know, what have you.
Yeah, if that's getting cool.
Yeah.
Right.
So he charges you 500 gold, and you know, allows you to take red, yellow, and blue gingham aprons as well. And you can denote on your character sheet that you have a periaptive wound closure, but he called it a lifesaver. So that's.
Master Wallace is just wearing all 3 aprons at once.
All four. I've got the fly. Nah, I'm gonna change them every day for like different moods. The blue one will be when I'm sad. The yellow one will be when I'm in quite a happy mood. The red one will be when I'm fighting, or the flip one, because that's the original one.
Wallace does not draw a weapon during combat. It's on apron.
OG apron.
Yeah. So you know, you will pass over you know, the amber or whatever it is that you have plus the coinage. So subtract the 500 gold pieces, and he'll kind of count it out or appraise, you know, whatever it is, gems or whatever that you're handing him. And well, you know, is there anything else that I could help you with while you're here?
Anything that can lend us a little bit of extra protection, and any kind of potions, curatives, anything for healing you might have would be greatly appreciated.
You know, the potions and scrolls and things like that, they're not really what I dabble in. It's possible that I might be able to help you with some kind of protection, but again, I don't know if I have anything like that in stock right now. So if you give me a moment, I'll just check. And you know, this could probably go a lot faster if anybody else is interested in buying something. I could look it all up at the same time. So
All this stuff is great. I wish I could take it all home, but can I? Do you have chalk and candle?
You know, we very much do. If you go back over to, I saw you were looking at those sprockets and those springs and things like that. If you
Way?
yeah, if you go
There's
right
a lot
back
of
over there,
sprockets and springs. Yeah.
yeah, it's really really close to there. You'll find it's just a big tin. There's hundreds of pieces of chalk in there. There's some charcoal as well. I believe that if you go just a little bit down on the bottom shelf, you could find some pastels as well. So look over there. So you were asking for chalk, and you said candles as well.
Chalk and candles. Yeah. And I was wondering how tall is that you said metal doll that Junie noticed?
Like the toy soldiers?
The toy soldiers, yeah.
Yeah, they're probably like 4 inches tall, something like that.
Just okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so talking candles.
Yeah. Okay, and then he'll tell you, now as far as the candles go, if you'll go where your friend was looking at aprons, kind of over in our home section, you can find various assortment of candles over there. Some of which are scented. I prefer the ones that smell like patchouli. If you smell, it's what you smell in here right now. I've got the one burning back here on the shelf. It's quite lovely.
Yeah. He's just gonna walk over and like try to smell the candles that like don't have as much scent to them.
All right, so
as possible.
He'll go over there. He'll find the chalk. He'll find some candles. Or whatever it was he was looking for. He'll find something that could suit.
Yay!
All right. Now was Chandel, Jess? I know Eric was looking for something that's kind of like might offer protection. Is there anything in particular that Wynn or Junie would be looking for?
Wynn just wants to stock up her herbalist kit and get some oil.
Like for a lantern type oil or some other kind of oil?
Yeah, like a flask or 10 of oil.
Okay.
Flask or 10.
Okay, all right then. So he'll tell you kind of like much saying, well, you've already seen. I saw that you were over there with the herbalism kits and all the other herbs and things like that. You stock up whatever you need there. I'm sure that we've got to have what you're looking for. We are all out of black spore right now, but we should be able to get some more of that pretty soon after this whole plague thing is over. But other than that, you should be able to get whatever it is you're looking for. And if you're looking for oil where your friend was looking at the sprockets and the whatnot, you can find some oils and things like that over there.
Okay.
All right. Chandel, Junie looking for anything in particular? Okie dokie. All right. In that case, Eric, same thing with Lewis. Bottom fourth, top fourth, where you want it.
Let's go. You said there's bottom, top, and then next to bottom and next to top, right?
Yep.
There are 4 seconds?
Yep.
Let's go next to top.
Next to top. Yeah, 63 falls in that range. All right, so I'll need to consult this real quick. Give me just a second.
Ooh, D&G's coming out. I feel special.
Can I fold up my other aprons and put them in the bag of holding, please?
Yes. So that means I'm just gonna write down 3 various aprons.
2 are what is that pattern called?
Gingham.
2 gingham, 1 flower.
Okay. Oops. All right. And as he kind of like, he does sort of the same thing that he did with Wallace. He kind of like sorts through those ledgers, and he kind of like looks up at you, and he's like, "Aha, we do. It just so happens that if you'll follow me over here, you'll just go right back to where your friend was, where I have jewelries and what have you." And he leads you over there, and you kind of like see the necklaces all kind of like hanging on this kind of like wall type area. And there's just kind of like several boxes of like rings, and he kind of like begins going through one of the boxes, kind of like reaching his little gnomish hands down in through them, and he just kind of like without even you really like seeing him looking or whatever, he's just kind of like fingering around in there, and he kind of like pulls out this platinum looking ring, and he's like, this little thing right here, you put it on your finger, it's guaranteed to help protect you.
Ooh, ring of protection. And how much would that cost exactly?
I'll do you the same deal that I did to your friend for the lifesaver. You give me 500 gold, then it's yours.
Do you take trades by any chance?
Well, it entirely depends on what it is you're trying to trade me.
Well, this is a
I do
curious
fancy
shop.
that I am a reasonable person.
This is a shop for curiosities, and I've got two things you might be interested in. And I'll pull out from way back in Morton. I still have the black sheet with the raised writing on it.
What black sheet?
It was the thing we got off of the bandit captain that initially told us about Lessig.
Oh.
Yeah, with all the swirly black abyssal writing that kind of sits off the page a little bit. So I got that, and I'll put that on the table. And then I'm gonna pull out the gold inlaid music box that we just stole.
The one that I was attuned to?
Oh, you're attuned to that. I forgot it was a magic item. My bad.
Don't give away my stuff.
Okay, well, see, I didn't know Toby was attuned to it yet, because I think that we said, I told you last time that after kind of like sleeping with it, you weren't attuned to it because you didn't tell me that you attuned to it, but you knew that you could attune to. Right.
And I was starting to.
Okay, yeah. I wasn't aware that you did that. Okay, all right. Yeah. So
that was the whole point of spending
ignore
time
that
with
then.
it.
Gotcha.
Sorry, I still had it on the bag of holding sheet, and I was just like, meh.
All right. So yeah, I knew that Toby had that. I just didn't realize that Toby was attuned to it. So we'll talk about
I'll
that
pull out the
in just a little
parchment,
bit.
and then I'll pull out my 200 gold pieces of amber as a trade as well.
Okay. All right. So you're offering the 200 gold pieces of amber and then the piece of parchment in trade?
Yeah.
All right. So he'll, spend a little time kind of like looking at the amber, and then he'll kind of like look at the sheet of parchment with the rays, and as you hand it to him, he kind of like looks down at it and looks back up at you, and he's like, well, this is, it's kind of interesting, and it's certainly a curiosity, but I can't say that it's 300 gold pieces worth of curiosity.
No.
What is this? Is this, as I've already mentioned, I'm not really one for scrolls and what have you. Is this a magical scroll? What is it?
It was a note left behind by a mythical creature outside the town of Morton.
Well, that is a curious sort of tale to go along with it. And he'll kind of sort of run his fingers over it.
Does he
So
know
it'll be
comprehend
awkward.
languages?
This will be jammy. If you manage to pass that off for 300.
You see that he's
I'm not trying
kind
to
of
pass it off for 300. I'm just trying to pass it off for 20 or 25 or something.
yeah. He kind of he runs his hands over it and is kind of feeling the raised black symbols that are on it, and he's like, I can't really make much of this. I like the story, a mythical creature. What the kind of creature are we talking about here? What is it? What left this?
There was a bit of a local legend called Lessig outside the town of Morton. Apparently was in the habit of raising the dead and controlling people's minds, so it would take people from the woods around town. we ran a bit of we ran into it sort of on purpose / by accident. It caused us a few problems along the way, and after we dealt with it, that was one of the things that was left over. Took it as a bit of a memento, but it's not really doing me any good.
Okay. All right, do me a favor. You are very much telling the truth, but give me a persuasion roll to see, how convincing your truth sounds, being that it's somewhat incredible.
Natural 20.
All right. Well, I do think I've heard of things kind of like this before, but in Morton, I did not know that anything like that had happened. That is very interesting, I would be interested in this, but my friend, I gotta tell you, it's not worth 300. It's not even worth 50 gold pieces, really, but, I could probably 15 gold pieces, maybe? I pay 15, I put it in a frame, I tell persons a nice story about it, I maybe sell it for 25,
Deal.
Alright.
So that's 215 gold pieces, so I still have... What is it? 285? It's 285. Something like that. Yeah, I'll pay 285 for a ring of protection.
Okay.
In a heartbeat.
Alright. So, you put down another 285 on it, and you can mark that you have a +1 ring of protection.
Sweet.
So it will add +1 to your armor class, obviously.
Should I see that now?
If I keep the ring, it's at a 19 naturally. But
That's class.
I'm actually going to pass it off to Junie because she seriously needs it.
Alright.
Like,
Oh.
Wynn's fine with her barbarianness. Wallace has some decent armor. We need to find better armor for Junie. And
Thank you. Thank you
Toby.
so much.
Hey, just bought you a ring.
oh god, don't say that. I imagine Toby
Okay.
saying that in person and like
Yeah,
Kay
he would
just
too.
dying of embarrassment because he didn't think it through.
Okay, so is the ring of protection, how does it work?
You get a
Protect
+1
your
to your armor
heart.
class.
Okay.
You get a +1 to your armor class and +1 to saving throws, I believe it is.
Does it?
It's a good buy.
Let me check on that. I knew it did armor class. Let me check on the saving throws.
I can't remember if it does both or if it's just armor class.
There's like a robe of protection or something like that, and I think that
Yeah, I think
adds...
the rope does both.
I think it does the saving throws. Anyway, I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah. Whichever.
Kay and Junie sitting in a tree.
Shut it down right now. Shut it
First comes
down.
love,
More like
then comes
D-Y-I-N-G.
then comes a half elf in the golden carriage.
If I actually had a voice, I would definitely utilize my voice if I had. Just
I'm gonna
know
cast
that.
thaumaturgy when I sing that, so it's really loud.
Okay.
Just know
So-
if it's done in character, you'll be getting slapped a lot.
Come at me, I've got a new apron.
All right. So
She'll
real
slap
quick,
you and deal the damage, and I'll slap you to heal the damage.
Chandel, Eric's absolutely right. It gives you a +1 to your AC, but it also gives you a +1 to saving throws while you're wearing it.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. And just very quickly, Lewis, while I got it open, your periaptive wound closure. It does require attunement, mind you, so you do have to attune to this. So it's not going to work until you attune to it.
That's fine, I'll do that over the next couple of days.
While you wear this pendant, you stabilize whenever you're dying at the start of your turn. In addition, whenever you roll a hit die to regain hit points, you double the number of hit points it restores. All
Pretty
right.
great.
And,
I'm now immortal.
and then as far as the Ring of Protection goes, Chandel, that also requires attunement. So you have to attune to it before you can get those benefits. Now, you're all kind of like looking around. You've purchased the things that you want to purchase in terms, or Shondell didn't, or Junie didn't want anything. Lewis got what he wanted. Sir Kay got what he wanted. Toby, you were just, or Kristen, you were just wearing. Toby was just buying chalk and candles, and that was it. Okay, so what about those? How many candles?
12.
12. And then how much chalk?
24.
24. Okay.
An assortment of pastels too. Like 12 of the pastels and then 12 of the regular white chalk.
Okay, all right. So you kind of like get a mixture of those, and when you bring him up there, he's like, you know, tell you what, because of the sale and the abundance of these things that I have, you give me a silver piece, and you can have all of this.
Oh, that's a deal. Flips Lynn.
All right, then indeed it is. All right. Thank you very much, my friend. Now, you. So he looks over to Wynn, who is, I'm assuming, waiting there. You had oil. Was oil and what else did you want?
Oil and to stock up the herbalist kit.
Okay. All right, just a second. Business. Okay. How much oil were you buying?
10 flasks.
So you get 10 flasks of oil, and then you've quite depleted your herbalism kit. I don't think you've really stocked it up other than things that you found here or there, and so you just kind of like basically replenish most of the stuff that you wanted. But as you bring all of that stuff up there, he kind of like looks at everything and he's like, and for everything that you're getting here, 3 gold sounds like a pretty good deal to me.
Okay.
All right.
Mommy, you have your
All right. So he'll, charge you 10 gold. We got a lot more things in the shop. Anything anybody else would like? Perhaps I could interest you in Petrified the Mouse or other accoutrements?
Yeah, I'll take the mouse.
Do you have any other petrified animals? Petrified dog?
No. A dog? No, I'm afraid that we sold the petrified dog just last week. The person got that pretty good deal on that, even though the plague sale was not going on at the time. As far as the petrified mouse goes, that right there, see, you're going to like this. That is a mouse, and it was actually found in the temple of the judge as it was being excavated. And this dates back circa to the Imperium, so that is a mouse from a very long time ago, and I can let you have it for about the gold piece.
You had me at petrified mouse, and gives him a gold piece.
All right. So, there you go. Okay. Yeah. Is there anything that anyone else would like from Carabel's Curiosities?
No, but I've officially headcanoned that the mouse's name is Mickey the Judge.
All right.
That's what he is, Mickey the Judge.
Okay, Mickey the Judge. Now,
what do you think, Mickey? Do we want more stuff? No? All right.
You think you almost hear a little squeak?
Would Revify a petrified mouse?
No, but Greater Restoration does.
Oh no.
All right.
I was trying to think if we should make or try to make a construct out of the little tin soldiers.
Yeah. Well, they're still there.
Yeah.
You could. All right. So I'm assuming no one else wants anything in particular from here. Just as you're kind of like all conducting your business and wrapping that up, Carabel will just kind of like from behind his counter. Well, thank you very much for stopping in today. And please, if you see any of your friends out there, let them know about the sale. I'm gonna put up another message here shortly, but as you can see, it's pretty dead in here.
Oh, oh no.
Well,
Yeah, I'm just gonna wish him
Yeah.
well and head on my way because we still have other stuff we gotta do.
Okay. All right then.
Have a nice day.
You too. You take care. You come back. You need anything, you let
If
me
I ever
know.
need an apron, I will be here.
All right. We have plenty left in stock.
Yeah, I'll catch you later. And I'm just gonna walk out.
All right. Y'all walk out, and the door will just kind of like ring as the bell, is flicked as you open the door. Now, is about the time that we normally take our, 5-10 minute break. So let's go ahead and do that. And when we get back, you can let me know what you want to do after that. Okay? So let's
Sure.
take a 5-minute break. So we've just had our 5-10 minute break. And in this session so far, you have kind of awoken at the Silver Pony and discovered that pretty much everything was dead quiet. Not really much going on downstairs of the Silver Pony, not much going on in the streets of the city of Black Sands. You had breakfast at the Silver Pony, and then you went to check on Wynn's parents in the precinct of Middlefish. A more kind of like middle class type area for guild artisans and scholars and things like that. And you went to Wynn's parents' house, and Wynn just kind of like took you all on inside, and you met her mother. You gave her quite the start. She cut her finger. Wynn ended up healing it, but you just spoke with her a little bit, and she kind of like told you a little bit about the plague from when she was a child and how it happened before, after Wynn had kind of like intimated to her mother that she thought it was zombie rot. So you had a bit of a conversation, and then from there you went back to Black Castle because you had intended to go try to buy some things. And as you came out of the Silver Pony before seeing Wynn's mother, you had noticed riding in the sky, kind of like in clouds in the shape of, common tongue writing that had read, come to Carabel's Curiosities and Save with the Plague Sale. And knowing that you had seen that, you decided to stop back by Carabel's once you got back into Black Castle, and you did, and you found this kind of like, stone building, moss-covered stone, and it looked a bit like a cottage, only much larger. And you went inside, and you saw that the inside of it still resembled a cottage, kind of had like a smell of, patchouli throughout, and you might have thought that pleasant, you might have not. But essentially you just saw, a lot of just kind of like junk and random assortment of things in there. And you kind of had a bit of a shopping trip meeting with this gnome fellow named Carabel, who ended up selling you multiple things and seemed like a pleasant enough person. Now, we left off before break with you just exiting Carabel's. I have no idea what you want to do, so please tell me what your plan is now.
Ginny, what kind of armor do you have on right now?
I know I have a oh, it's leather armor.
Probably get you some studded leather, so blacksmith maybe. Wallace, you already have studded leather, and I think that's the best you can get for you.
Mm-hmm.
So studded leather for Toonie, and then I say we either find some guards to talk to, like that Garrigan guy, to see if they know what's going on.
We've got two options with that. We could talk to Garrigan, or we could talk to Tenon, who's an elf that could potentially know about things. So that's another option for us.
We could make this fun for both groups, and I could take Wallace to see Garrigan, and then the scholars can go talk to the scholar and go to the library for the day. Because I know we're just going to be sitting there twiddling our thumbs, Wallace. Like, that's you three would know infinitely more about what to ask and how to ask it than we would, so...
I'd probably end up just annoying them and getting barred from the library.
Yeah, that's the other thing I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of Wallace getting you three banned. I'm pretty sure that would break some hearts in this group.
Very much so. Yeah, I mean, Toby's up for going back to the library, and we're specifically like looking for cures or just more information about what happened during that time.
I guess just, to be honest, the kind of stuff that we'd want to find out is how this, well, we know how it started, but how the plague was stopped.
Right.
If anything, you know how, maybe inquire more about the silver dagger thing. That could be another, because that's like, do we have that silver dagger?
Yeah, it's in the bag. I took
Right,
it.
so, cool. We could ask about that with the guard guy. But yeah, just like information basically on how this plague stopped, I guess would be something we want to find out.
The silver dagger was in the guy that was on the horse.
Yeah, it was
Yeah, but it
shoved into
seems
their back.
deliberate.
Okay.
So we could try and find the owner of that dagger. And
Yeah.
Possible.
maybe if you're going to a blacksmith, I don't know how well a blacksmith would. You know, like you could be able to tell, like, I don't know, it's like
Maybe
quite a
like
high chance.
the kind of steel, like I'm sure that they would know what kind of material or
It
like
was
the
a
region
silver
that it's
dagger, which
from.
I assume silver
well, I
daggers
guess
aren't
pretty
common.
generic. Yeah.
I didn't know if there was like specific types of crafting style that might belong to a specific race. You know, like in games you get like elven swords and like a glass sword and that. Like, I didn't know if it was like a silver dagger but crafted in a or style. You know,
We could try to like investigate it first. I mean, just kind of do like a general investigation, and maybe that can help like look to see what kind of books we should pull. I mean, if it's like if there's writing or
Yeah.
yeah.
sounds good
Wallace,
to me.
how many sending spells do you have left?
2.
You have 2 left? Holy shit.
I get 3 third level spells.
Yeah. Okay, that's awesome. In that case, like, I can go, or Wallace and I can go talk to Garrigan. We could just ask, like, hey, do you, like, what blacksmith would you recommend in town after the conversation's over? Go to that blacksmith, pick up armor for Junie, ask them about the dagger, and then sending you the results.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll text one of you. Just don't leave me in red.
Gotta get those
Sounds
receipts,
good.
boy.
All right. So, if I understand things correctly, I believe that Sir Kay and Wallace are going to go see Garrigan. And then I believe Junie and Toby and Wynn are going to go to the Chapel of Tomes. Is that correct?
That's a library?
Yes. The Chapel of Tomes
okay.
is
The
kind of like
guy-
this
Yeah.
temple library of the archivist. You've been there before.
Yeah.
This was where
Yeah.
Wallace almost got assassinated.
Right.
Mind that.
Just making sure that was
Yeah, Tannen is a elven priest that knows Wynn's mum at the library who might also be able to give you extra information.
yeah.
Okay. All right then. So, let's start with Sir Kay and Wallace. Now, you had previously spoken with the guards, and you had asked who that you might talk to, kind of like someone who's in charge. And they had told you their captain was Garrigan, so Captain Garrigan is who you're looking for. And essentially, you know, if you didn't know, you would have gotten directions from them as to how to find Captain Garrigan, and they would have kind of like told you where you could find, you know, a sort of particular precinct of the guards, just kind of like this barracks type building. Barracks kind of / jail as well, on sort of a smaller scale, kind of like a temporary holding sort of place. And you will make your way there, and you've probably passed it since you've been here and not really realized what it was. It is just kind of like a smaller stone building, 2 stories. And I say smaller because many of the buildings here are much larger than 2 stories. It's just kind of like got slated roof to it, and it's just pretty nondescript looking from the outside. Nothing to advertise that this is a particular precinct or anything like that. Just this kind of small-ish gray stone building. Now, as you approach it, there are a couple of guards outside, and as you get closer, one of them, younger elven woman, will just kind of like, not threateningly really, but will kind of like step forward and, what is your business here?
My friend and I here were part of the ruckus that was caused last night that led to this whole situation. We were hoping to speak to Captain Garrigan, if we could.
So you have information about the plague?
Information and possibly questions. My name's Sir Cadron Lorinau. My friend and I here are part of the Blackstone Mercenary Company. We're a small group, but we're trying to help out if we can.
Wait, you guys have a name now?
I think the name just like kind of rattled out of me by accident.
Alright, well, hold on. Let me make note of that.
I'm sorry. His lying is becoming second nature. But I mean, a Blackstone brought us together. It fits.
So Blackstone Mercenary Company is what you said?
Yeah, why not? We'll go with that for now. We can always change it later.
Alright, well, you say that. And then, well, good Sir Knight, I'm sure that he would very much like to speak with you and your friend. Please, go in and see him. You'll find him at his desk.
As we go in and, like, as we walk by, I just give Wallace that look and, like, a slight shrug of, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Just keep going.
I mean, I'm wearing a yellow checkered dress, and we're about to go and talk to, like, a guard captain, and I kind of return the same look, like, I don't know.
I'm just throwing it out there. Wallace is an oddly confidence-inducing creature.
Alright, so you head inside, and when you go inside, you will come into probably about a 25 by 20 foot room. There are several kind of like smaller desks in here, and there's really only one person in here, and they're kind of like off in a corner behind a larger desk. And as you look at them, you see they're kind of like a human male, and they have kind of almost like a skullet, you know? It's just kind of like stringy, sort of like black hair coming down from the back, and they're just kind of like bald right up on top. And they've got kind of like a longer beard, and the person has an eye patch, and just kind of like beyond that, you see a bit of a scar, you know, streaming from like the forehead down to the cheek below it. And they are in armor, and you see that, you know, even though they're sitting at the desk, they're wearing kind of like a cape with like a platinum clasp, kind of holding it together. And as you come in, Lewis, I apologize. The person looks up at you and, all right, yous, what can I do for you?
Brilliant.
Not bad.
What's happening? We're from the
I didn't know.
Mercenary Company.
Blackstone.
And Blackstone Mercenary Company. We've come here about the plague.
We were part of what happened last night outside the Silver Pony. We figured we might stop by and see if we can do you any favors. And
I'm just going to show him my hand while he says it.
To let you know, we sort of have a bit of a theory, I guess. Please, can we sit? And I'll just
All right.
gesture to...
Have a seat.
I'll just grab a seat and wait for Wallace to sit down, and before anything is said, I'll just launch into it, and I'll just be like, so I will admit I wasn't thinking last night, but the zombie that we killed had this in its back, and I just lay the silver dagger on the table.
Okay. All right. And, kind of as you, like, sort of reach back, you see that, he takes a more kind of, like, defensive posturing, but once you just kind of, like, place the dagger on the table, he kind of, like, relaxes a good bit, And when you, I don't know if I can carry on the accent, but continuing on like that, All right, well, what of it?
Well, it appears to be. I need to try not to mimic that accent. Jeez. Well, it appears to be an entirely silver blade, and I have a bad feeling it was used to bleed the body dry so that they would actually turn into a zombie by the time they hit the middle of this city. You wouldn't by chance know anybody who'd be capable of making something like that, would you?
All right, again, I can't keep up the accent, but he will tell you, essentially, I can't keep it up. Apologies. Trying to figure out if I could...
Just like trying to, like, you seen Shrek, yeah? Just try and talk, or
Right.
Davy Jones, who Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, well, I haven't I haven't really seen a whole lot of Shrek, but I am familiar with Mike Myers' Scottish character from Saturday Night Live, so that's about the best I've got. But anyway, let's try.
I'm a donkey, Shrek. Nothing? How's that? Try to encourage you.
I didn't know any particular craftsman who might make knives like that, but any particular blacksmith might be able to forge such a thing. Actually, I'm slipping more. Yeah, I can't keep it up. I can't hold the accent. So anyway, I don't know any particular blacksmiths who specialize in silvered weapons, is essentially what he's saying. And he does tell you, at our local market, you could talk to a fella named... it's a good name. Eric, just give me a name.
Jameson.
Jameson. All right. You could talk to Jameson Smith. I'm afraid you won't be able to see him today. You've probably noticed that the market is closed.
No. Well, as you can see, I was attacked by this thing last night, and our theory stands true that we think that this was done deliberate. We were also wondering, perhaps, what you know of the plague that happened before, because we were made aware that, that there was one.
I'm afraid it was before my time.
Fair one, mate. Well,
We got some people trying to do some research into that, but we thought we'd at least
And
mention
as you look at him, you can tell he is a human man. He's, a little past middle age. He's kind of older. He's seen some combat, you think, probably judging by his looks. But, he's a human. He's not that old, comparatively speaking. So, he's like, I'm afraid it was before my time. I know a plague existed. I know it was apparently horrible. But I don't know much about it. Now, so you think this might have been used to bleed them, kill them?
One of our friends investigated this, and we think it's something known as zombie rot. And basically, when a person passes on, they essentially turn into a zombie. There's lots of boils and whatnot on the person's face. However, we think that, you see, this fell off of a horse outside of the inn that we were staying at. And we think that this person was stabbed in the back to sort of quicken this procedure, make them die quicker, so this would
Normally
happen.
the entire disease takes about 4 days, according to our herbalist friend.
Harlan the Bloodletter, if you know him.
Yes.
I'm familiar
So
with him.
apparently, after 4 days, you come back, and the only way to speed it up is to die beforehand. So put two and two together.
Has the
And what
plague
do you?
spread throughout the city? Has there been any other cases or sightings of any other people that have been found in similar fashion to the person that we came across?
Uh, we haven't heard anything from other parts of the city regarding plague. Things are fairly shut down. Now, I do think you just said that it takes a few days, so I'm afraid we might not know for a day or two how bad it is what he tells you. But why would you think someone would do this on purpose?
I don't know.
Do you know who might have done such a thing? I mean, you have your suspicions.
No,
Well, you see,
honest.
we've heard about, I don't know, the old gods and whatnot, and people used to worship them. I don't know how often that's practiced here. Perhaps some of what was the name of the god, the dead eater guy?
Give me an intelligence roll to see whether or not Wallace actually remembers it.
I can remember that. Okie dokie.
I wrote down, but
Oh,
I'm not
16.
gonna say it.
16. Yeah, you remember it. Akulamai too, also known as the
Akulamai
Dead
too.
Eater, also known as the Great Unfather. So, you remember.
Akulamaitu, I believe his name was, and what's circling in my head is perhaps a cult of his.
And you see he's kind
It's-
of considering, what you're saying. All right.
It's conjecture at this point, but we're just going based off the research we've done so far, and that's what came up. That's the best we got. We don't know of anyone in particular that might want to do this to an entire city, so it's a bit difficult for us to say. But like I said, we're just trying to do our part to help out, especially after last night.
We got told to come see you, and any information. I mean, we are leading an investigation and an inquiry into this, separate to obviously what you'll probably be doing as guards. So any information would help us.
Well, he kind of
And
like
if we
looks at
find
you saying, you want to help out, and then you're, kind of conducting this investigation, and he'll kind of like mull it over for a bit, and well, you really should leave the investigation to the guard. We will handle things. Probably be best if you stayed inside, just in case. I hear you say you were in contact with this person. And, if I understand it correctly, my guards tell me that Harwin healed a couple of you. So I'm sure
Nice.
you're okay. But, we want to reduce contact of people to people. It's how these things kind of spread, so I'm told. That's
Oh,
what the
you
priests
see,
say, at least.
I would normally oblige, but I need to get out of this place as quick as possible. So it's in my best interest to find out what's going on here.
I'm afraid you
Where's-
can't do it.
We're sort of on an entirely different job, but this is waylaying us a bit, so that's why we're putting ourselves to work.
Right. And then he, just kind of looks at you. You might want to get comfortable. City's closed.
Well,
No one
If we
leaves,
find
no
it-
one enters. Now,
if we
you
find
say you
anything,
want...
we'll let you know.
I appreciate it. And you say you want to help. In situations like this, I could always use extra hands.
Well, consider it a bit of a partnership then. We'll help you out as we can, and if we find anything, we'll let you know. Right now, we're just looking into the causes of the old plague and see if anything lines up. So we'll keep you posted.
No, I appreciate it thoroughly. And in times like this, I have to think about what kind of effect this can have on the city. And while the Black Castle district is considerably safe, considering the size of city it is, there are some unsavory elements, and they tend to make themselves known during these times. There is a group known as the Mischief, and they tend to take advantage of situations like this. Thieves,
The
smugglers.
Mischief?
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of thieves
so-
and smugglers. So if you happen to get word of any activity with them, I would appreciate it. Appreciate knowing about
well, we may already have. What was the name of the? Can I make sure remember that name of that building that we
It
fought?
it was a shipping company.
And the old import company or something?
it. That's it.
We were at the old import company. There was an attempt on my life, and this kind of relates to the job we're on. And but before that building was on fire the other day or yesterday, jeez, uh, we found a room. Might have found some dodgy rat people. Sound familiar?
Long story short, we managed to get into the basement and they lit the building on fire around us, so we had to clear out quite quickly. It was before we could really get anything done and find any information, but it sounds like it might be their form of operation, so to speak.
So, as you're kind of like saying that, he's looking at the two of you almost kind of suspiciously. And, you know, so you mean to tell me you were involved with the fire? You're involved
No.
with the plague? Someone made an attempt on your life?
Yeah.
The guards already dealt with that one. You'll find that in your record somewhere. He got stabbed in a library. We got lucky, managed to see the man sneaking into the old import company while we were shopping. And so we went to check it out and see if we could find anything.
And
We
what are
got
your
in.
names again? I'm sorry, I
Peter.
called
Oh.
the Blackstone Mercenary Company. But you are?
Sir Cadron Lorna, Knight of the Road. Pleasure. And I just hold out a hand and I like kind of make a point to make the symbol of the judge kind of clatter against the armor.
Okay. And who are you again?
Wallace McDonald, Miss Hatton. And I'll offer a
Alright,
hand to
so
him.
he'll shake
And
both of
kind
your
of
hands.
same thing, show my holy symbol to show that I'm like a religious dude.
And where are you staying in town?
At the Silver Pony.
Am I under arrest?
No, not at all. Who said anything about arrest?
Kay just gives him a weird look like, you talking about? Like he's
I was gonna
surprised by
start-
it too.
I was gonna pull out some common law on this guy because I feel like I don't really need to be giving information out. Have I done anything to warrant suspicion of you asking me for details? We have done nothing but come and offer you help off of our own backs. And
You're the wrong person to be asking if anyone should be suspicious of you. And like I say that straight in character to him. To add in a little bit of detail here, our other job involves finding a bandit that's been causing people quite a few issues, and we have a feeling the man who stabbed Wallace quite literally in the back might have been hired on by that bandit. It's a long story that you really don't need to get into. The most important bit is that we managed to sort of accidentally run into the man again as we were walking past the old import company, so we followed him inside and
coincidence.
things sort of popped off and they lit the building on fire, so that happened. We're staying at the Silver Pony, by the way, to answer your question.
Alright, well, not that you can leave the city anyway, but don't go far from the Silver Pony, please.
We'll be staying there for the foreseeable future, so if you ever need to find us, that's your best bet. Whoever will be.
And if worst comes to worst, you can leave a message with Sweeney and we'll get it as soon as we return there.
Certainly.
I'll text you.
And If I have need of assistance, I'll call on you there. And again, as I mentioned, if you hear anything about the mischief, please let me know.
Of course.
All right, and thank you
Of course.
for coming here with this information. These are good things to know. I appreciate it. Now,
No.
apologies for not being able to hold the accent. Got a little self-conscious on that. So,
Oh, sorry, it was a great attempt, RJ. It was a good attempt.
yeah.
Before we move over, we don't have to roleplay this. Will he let me keep the dagger so I can take it to a blacksmith?
Yeah, he doesn't try to take the dagger. You know, he looks at it, he examines it for a little bit, you know, but you
Sweet.
can see he's not really considering it as evidence he needs to hold on to or anything like that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, now, the three of you, Wynn, Toby, Junie, you all head over to the Chapel of Tomes. You know how to get there. It's not very far from where you were. When you get there, unlike, you know, recently, it appeared to be kind of like very open, and you kind of like walk in. It's got much less of an open air kind of like vibe to it right now as the doors are closed. So what do you do as you approach it?
The doors are just closed.
Yeah.
Bring out your dead.
Try to open the door.
All right, you go to open it, and it's pretty firm and locked.
I'm
Okay.
gonna struggle and push on it.
All right, so
With
you
my
kind of
little
like
body.
yeah. So you open it, you realize it's closed. You kind of like begin struggling at the door, and you know, you're making a good bit of noise as you're trying to do it. You know, you're just kind of like pushing on it, and there's some give to it. You know, it's a fairly sturdy door, but you are able to kind of like rattle it as you push against it. You know, sturdy but kind of older. And you make a bit of a noise, and as you're just kind of like working at it for a couple of minutes, after a little bit, you hear a voice from the other side. Hello? What do you want?
We're gonna read some books. What else would we want?
If you didn't know, there's a plague going on here. We're quite
we
closed.
don't have it.
Well, neither do me, and we'd like to keep it that way.
Can it? Well, then, can you pass us a book about? And he's gonna describe like the time period of what they're looking for in the region.
All right.
Could you just pass us a book? This book outside that.
All right, so you say that, and there's a bit of a pause, kind of like from the other side, and when the voice comes back, I'm not quite sure I can, but I will go check on that. All right, so you just kind of like, you know, sit there for a bit. Now, just to say, I mean, you guys wanted to go in, you all wanted to go in, you wanted to do a little bit of research. But you were also, I think, here to see a particular person. So did you want to say that, or do you just want to try to get the book that they were doing? Or the book that you were looking for?
I thought it was just a book. Am I forgetting things?
Anybody else remember?
Before he leaves, and I'll say, my mother told me that Tinnen is a priest here and would remember the last time there was this plague in the city.
Oh, yeah.
All right, yes, I know Tinnen. You wish to speak with Tinnen?
Yes, we do.
All right, I'll see if I can find him, and I will ask about the book as well. All right, so he'll leave, and, you know, you're kind of like left there right outside the doors of the Chapel of Tomes. Again, this is kind of like a bigger stone building with kind of like a domed glass, stained glass ceiling to it. You've been in here before, but you're just kind of waiting outside of these double doors, and he'll come back and tell you that Tinnen will be with you shortly, and I did ask about the book, but I'm afraid that you cannot take that now, nor can you come inside. But Tinnen is on his way. If you'll just wait patiently.
All right.
So you end up waiting. Is there anything you would be doing while you're waiting outside?
Anything what? Sorry, you cut out.
Is there anything you would be doing as you're waiting outside the Chapel of Tomes?
He's gonna be like drawing. If there's like a little, if there's like steps or a little, okay, yeah. He's gonna be drawing on steps with the chalk.
All right, so you're just kind of like out there on these stone steps that lead up to these kind of like big double wooden doors, and you're just taking your chalk out and just kind of like drawing. Well, what kind of stuff are you drawing on the stone? Just so I know.
He would probably be. Well, my initial thought was like, no plague inside, just rude. Because they wouldn't let us in.
Gotcha. All right.
So it's like arrows going to the door, but like he writes that in front of the door.
Are we sure Toby's not a preteen?
It's all the ages that come together when you're that old. It's like a cluster.
All right. So Toby's kind of like writing that, making his arrows, no plague inside, just rude, and he spends, some minutes doing that.
What does the outside look like again? Like, are there windows and things like that? Like, what is it?
Yes.
If Judy were to step back and kind of look around a little bit, what would she see?
All right. So you step back, you look at the building. Again, it's almost kind of like this circular building. It's larger. There aren't windows on the ground floor. There are the double doors, but I think there are about 5 levels of the library. You all remember you were kind of like going up them, and there are like different levels with books and tables for research and stuff like that. And then above the 5th level, the 5th floor, there's kind of like this domed stained glass ceiling. Well, it's kind of a mixture of stained glass and just leaded glass as well to let light in. But there are windows kind of like at each of the levels as well, aside from the ground floor level. And then kind of like around this stone domed building, there are kind of like those Japanese sort of like green sort of like pencil hedges that are kind of like up and, just kind of like, they're pretty tall. They're much taller than Junie is. They go up like a couple of floors. And anyway, they're just kind of like all around the chapel.
Okay.
And then there's the double doors, and then the stone steps that leading up to the double doors that Toby is currently riding on.
What do the windows look like? Could Judy kind of make that out?
Yeah, some of them are stained glass, and some of them are just kind of like clear leaded glass.
Do they open?
No, they're very much fixed in place. They do not open. They are breakable, however.
Sorry?
She's quite certain they're breakable, but they don't open.
Pan their windows in.
I don't want to break a window. I don't want to break a window and accidentally let the plague in.
All right, so you're kind of like looking at that. Is there anything in particular that Wynn's doing as she's waiting?
I'm sorry, you cut out there.
Oh, I just said Junie is kind of like looking to see if there's any way that she could.
Yeah, she's just kind of like
and
pacing around like the front of the
Sure.
building. She's not going around it all or anything. She's just kind of going like back and forth in the front there.
Yeah, and she's kind of doing that, and you won't be kept waiting that long anyway. But is there anything Wynn is doing in particular? Is kind of like Wynn is, or is Junie is scoping out the Chapel of Tomes, and Toby's riding on the steps?
She's just waiting to start with, and doesn't realize at first what exactly Toby's doing.
Okay. All right.
She probably realizes what he's writing just before Tinin arrives.
Right. Yeah. So you're looking at that, and it's kind of like starting to come together. And I'm gonna assume Toby doesn't do it in a straight about manner. It doesn't just like start forming words. I think he like starts drawing a part of an arrow over here, goes over here, does some lettering, skips to this other side, comes back to the arrow on this side, and then eventually kind of like at the end it starts coalescing into something that you make sense of. And about that moment, the double doors open up, and this older, much older, kind of like elf steps out, wearing the robes of those darker robes of the archivist, and as you're looking at him, he's again, he's another person, kind of like bald up top, and he's got kind of like that bit of hair that just kind of like goes around from the back, and it's just a little bit, like a little strip of hair that goes around, and he's just kind of got not a full-on thick beard or whatever, but just like these wisp of white just kind of like hanging down from his face, and like these bushy eyebrows. And he comes out and looks at the step that Toby's drawing on, and he just looks down at it and kind of nods a little bit, and very well.
When he comes out, he puts the chalk in his mouth. Like he didn't do it.
All right, Toby puts it in his mouth. How do you think Toby thinks that tastes?
He's at work.
Okay, all right. So he's able to tolerate it. He just puts it in his mouth real quick. Now, Toby, even though he was doing that quickly so that the person might not regard him with suspicion. Yeah. You can tell the person's not angry that you did that. In fact, when he looked down, he just kind of nodded and said, very well, how may I help you? I was told you wished to speak to me.
Yes, my mother told me that you were here for the last time plague struck the city, and we were hoping you could tell us something about how it was stopped.
Yes, I was here. I was a younger man at the time, not much younger, but I remember it well. It started out much like this. The city was closed, and the stores were shuttered, and the streets were bare. And then came the deaths, and then came the hunger and starvation. I forget. What do you want to know?
How the plague was stopped last time.
Well, unfortunately, dear, many people just died. The priests did what they could to stave off further infections, but there was no panacea, no curative for it. Those that died, died, and those that survived thrived afterwards.
And there were no theories on why it suddenly stopped?
Some said it was judgment from the old gods. Some more science-minded said it was merely an illness that had run its course. Some thought that the strong survived and the weak perished. Now, priests like myself were able to intervene with some and cure by means of magic, but, an outbreak in a city this size, even our magic can only cure but a fraction, and a tiny fraction of people. Barely a drop in a bucket. Now the men of science and the women of science speculate that if we prevent contact from person to person, we can prevent its spread. So the best thing to do is go inside and wait it out and pray to whatever gods you might pray to, that you don't encounter this illness.
or you could let us into the library and we could do some research because we're really good at that.
Well, my child, I am a priest of the Archivist, and quite an old one at that, and I'm familiar with just about every tome in here. And you can rest assured that I have done research on these things.
Yeah,
Not only that...
You know what they say about having a fresh pair of eyes thing? You can only read it so many times and see the same thing.
Yes, but there are several docents here, all with fresh eyes, some younger than yourself. I'm afraid I can speak to you, but only because I'm certain if you were ill, I could heal myself. I'm afraid the Chapel of Tomes is closed until the city reopens. But also, you can rest assured we are doing our part. Now, I was there, and I remember it. Do you have any other questions?
I personally don't, not unless you're going to let us into the library. So.
I'm afraid not. Alright. Well, if you have no more questions, I will leave you with blessings. Be safe. Stay inside, children. And then with that, he will leave and close the doors, and you will hear them barred behind him.
Man, I can lie straight to a guard captain's face, and y'all can't even talk your way to a library without me.
Toby's gonna kick a rock.
Yeah.
At this point, you...
hard than a paladin.
Judy's gonna turn around and be like, "So, can you guys fix a broken window with magic? Because I'll gladly try to climb up there."
Oh yeah, I definitely can.
Want me to give it a shot? Do you know exactly what we're looking for?
No, really.
No.
Let's do it.
I'm gonna cast Send into Toby and be like, "Hey Tobes, how's you? We went to guard captain. He's cool. Going to blacksmith. TTYL X."
Does Toby respond?
Hi.
Oh, yeah.
Wallace. What's that guy's name? Tenon?
Tenant, yeah.
Hi, Wallace. Tenon wasn't helpful. We're gonna go break a window. Okay. Hope you're doing well.
All right. So,
Bye.
I'd say
Bye.
let's leave off. It's 9:48 now. I'd say let's leave off on this communique of Toby.
The worst message.
Toby telling Wallace that they're about to break a window because Tin was not helpful. So we'll pause right there, and that's where we'll pick up next time. And I'm going to assume your tentative plan is to break into the Chapel of Tomes to recover some books.
It seems that way.
So, tentatively, that's...
We got it.
Mickey the judge told us to do it. It's not.
It wasn't my idea at all. It was totally Mickey the judge.
All right, got it.
Mickey.
Okay.
Plausible deniability.
All right. Well, we'll pick up next Monday with y'all tentatively breaking into the Chapel of Tomes, or at least attempting that.
I
So-
specifically took Wallace with me so that this very scenario wouldn't happen.
Well, they let us in. This wouldn't be a problem. Now we gotta burn the whole place down. So.
See, it's even me you need to worry about anything.
All right. Yeah, so we'll pick up with the three of you specifically, and we'll see what happens from there. So, let's wrap up for the night. As usual, let's go around and see if anyone has anything to plug or say in particular. So, Eric, let's start with you tonight.
Nothing in particular. Dice Nights, my podcast, just released a kind of Gen Con summary episode where we talk about some of the cool people that we got to meet up with. So shout out to a few of those people, like GUI Cube, one company that's doing some great things for D&D right now, and we're like super nice at Gen. A few other people that we mentioned in the episode as well. But besides that, I'm offering commissions for document editing now too. So if anybody watching has like novels or stories or anything they need an editor for, hit me up, because I can do that.
Do you do master's research papers?
Do you want me to do a master's research paper? Because I totally can.
No,
Don't
it's
expect
okay.
much help in terms of content, but
My professor butchered it enough, so it's good. But I'll keep that in mind for anybody else writing.
yeah, anybody doing fiction stuff, just hit me up. I need to work, and I want to build myself as an editor, so.
All right. Cool. Kristen.
Hello. You can find me on the Twitters at the IT Pirate now. Have a podcast, Roll Floor. Excited about some episodes coming up. I'll be at Dragon Con in 2 weeks. So, yeah, I hope everyone will check that out.
Awesome.
Also, the stream on Sundays, but that's on Pro Starter's channel, and yeah, so Sundays and Mondays,
All right.
playing kooky characters.
Very cool. Jess.
Well, I've started posting on Twitter a little bit again, so that's a bonus. But other than that, probably not much going on other than for the first time in over a decade. So exciting for that, but not so much online.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, good luck with that. Lewis.
Thank you.
You can follow me on Twitter at DM Nexus. Also, shout out to what are they people called? Hard Dice?
Die Hard Dice? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, Die Hard Dice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Because they're awesome, and you should buy dice off them. They helped RJ a lot with his project, and they're cool.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for doing that. I'm also going to do that in just a second. And have you gotten you haven't gotten your dice in yet though, right?
No, it's shipping to the UK will take probably a couple of weeks, about a fortnight before I get them. But it'll be worth it. They're cool. They're like
yeah, it was a very cool looking set.
ice
Yeah.
dice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, Shondell.
You can find me on Twitter and at Twitch when I get my voice back. At Shandy Valley on both platforms.
Okay, very cool. And I am RJ Cresswell. You can find me on Twitter at RJ_Cresswell, where I do giveaways, post about Dungeons and Dragons. I also do this stream every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, unless we're taking a break like we did for the last couple of weeks. And then I also have a stream set in the same world, my homebrew world of the Tainted Lands. It's in a different area, and that one is on Thursday nights, also at 8 p.m. Eastern, with a different group of people. And in addition to those things, I am a teacher, so I'm starting school again, and I will be continuing to do the Dungeons and Dragons Club that I've been doing. And I'm bringing this up because I just recently had a GoFundMe fully funded in a pretty short amount of time to raise materials for the club, because we were working with very bare bones stuff, and now we have lots of awesome stuff, and there are just so many people to thank that I can't thank them all. Lots of people donated generously, and it was really awesome and amazing, and I am so I was blown away by the response from it. It's awesome. And like Lewis, excuse me, like Lewis said, in addition to people just donating their money, a lot of people have contacted me about other things, such as Die Hard Dice, who very graciously sent 50 sets of dice for me to just give students, and that was awesome. And I just happen to use Die Hard Dice myself, is what I roll every night when I'm playing. But also Tabletop Loot, I just got an email and they are sending 35 sets of dice as well. I haven't gotten those in, but I did get the invoice for it and the tracking information on it, so those should be on their way. And they've at least showed me one set that they sent, and they're just absolutely beautiful dice, and I am envious of whatever student gets those. So there are so many other people that I will probably end up thanking on here as well, because they've told me they're sending stuff. In addition to that, I've got a couple other people that I need to thank, but I can't remember their Twitter handles, but they're awesome, and I'll try to remember to do that next time for sure. I'll make a note of that now. But anyway, enough of that. It was awesome, and I will probably continue to thank people. Even if they don't see it, you should know that they're awesome if you're watching it. So anyway, most importantly, if you happen to watch this on YouTube later, I don't really know that we had anyone join us tonight, but if we did, thank you. If you watch this on YouTube later, also thank you. And then, again, as usual, all of you who joined me tonight, thank you very much. And Eric, the surprise for tonight is we did just have a pleasant episode, and I didn't do anything horribly cruel to you at all whatsoever.
I know, it's a miracle. We had a downtime episode without a plot twist.
Yeah. So
this
there
just
you
means
go.
it's going to happen like double worse next time.
Yeah.
Calm
Gonna
before
make
the
up
storm.
for it.
All right. So anyway,
after wind dealing.
yeah. Thank you all very much, and I will see y'all next Monday night, and we'll pick up with people trying to break into a church. All right.
So well. Oh my god.
All right. Good night, y'all.